Hi, I'm Vince, and it's been approximately 15,000 years since I got my hair cut. Quite a few people have been in my comment sections, in Twitch chat, in my DMs, on Twitter, asking me how I feel about the new announcement of more Secret Lairs and the pricing of Double Masters. That name still sounds really dumb, but anyway. So I thought now would be as good a time as any to talk about a rather hot topic. That topic being premium products. There's a lot of talk of how not every product is for every player. Or more ominously, or perhaps directly condescending, we hear Wizards of the Coast say, not every product is for you. Besides it sounding like the words coming out of some bitchy prom queen in a teen comedy, there is some truth to that statement. Not every product can be for everyone, and there is a room in this environment or this economy for premium priced products. In this video, I'm going to clarify some terminology, primarily premium products and whales. I'm then going to talk about Wizards' engagement with these terms and this environment recently, and then finally we'll probably come to, kind of roundabout way, my opinion on the new Secret Lairs and the pricing of Double Masters? Double Masters. God, that name sucks. But first, what is a premium product? Essentially, the term premium product isn't like hard defined as anything particular. It's a little bit nebulous, but I'll try to summarize. It tends to be not a part of the core standard evolving Magic game, so the set tends not to go into standard, although you get premium versions of standard sets as well. And it tends to be priced higher for reasons that are often nonsense, but it's priced higher because they can charge that and people will buy it. These products are in theory aimed at the entrenched, the whales, the enthusiasts, the collectors, the ones with quite a bit of disposable income to buy those things. Again, I guess we need to keep everyone on the same page, so let's talk about the term whales for a second. The term whale has become part of popular gaming discourse to describe players who spend a lot of money on in-game purchases, cosmetics, and extras. It actually, as far as I can tell, originates from competitive gambling circles and casinos, especially poker, fish, sharks, whales. It's all terms in poker circles, denoting the money they will put into the pool and onto the table and what threat they might present. It popularly entered video game discourse around 2014. I first became consciously aware of the term myself when Jim Sterling covered 2014's Game Development Conference, a conference full to the fucking brim with monetization and whale hunting talks. He discussed this in an episode of the Jimquisition that I will link to below. 2014's GDC, for those of you that don't know, was a shocking display of where the gaming industry was going and has kind of gone. It's a games conference where game developers get together, and instead of like, it does advertise games to the public, but on the whole it's to discuss the design and development of the games themselves. Mark Rosewater himself, the head designer of Magic the Gathering, has given a GDC talk, so it is about game designers coming together to share ideas. It's like TED Talks, but primarily about gaming. That year, the GDC had 20 different talks around monetization, farming your whales, how to create a more viral experience that will push the profits of your game. It's a game development conference where the focus is moving away from game development to the business aspect of how much money can you make. One of those panels, I'm not making this up, you might think I'm making this up, one of those panels was called Monetizing Teens in a Safe and Legal Manner. If that talk name doesn't make your skin crawl, what the fuck? So what about Magic? How does this tie into Magic? Well, let me start by saying this video isn't intended to be firing shots across the bow of anyone working for Wizards of the Coast. I'm not looking to bully or pick on anyone at Wizards, and especially Mark Rosewater here. I'm not looking to, shit on his parade. And I also realise that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, to an extent as well, are companies, businesses that need to make money. And although I describe myself as a bit of a lefty, and we can all see the problems that capitalism brings with it, it doesn't mean that I don't think these companies shouldn't make money whilst trying to sell their game to us. I'm not looking to seize the means of production to make our own cards, and I'm not saying every card should be free, that's not what I'm saying. If anything on this channel, I'm more for consumer advocacy. I'm for making sure the consumer is not being preyed upon or just fucked over in general, but I also want the game and the company that makes it to survive. I actually want Wizards of the Coast to make quite a bit of money, because it means that Magic thrives. If you haven't noticed, I love Magic. I'm an entrenched and invested player, and now my job and my life and my career is also heavily entrenched with Magic, so I don't want to see it fail or a company that makes it fail. With that said, let's take a look at Mark Rosewater's recent blog post talking about premium products. And allow me to quote from this blog here. This is on his Blogatog website. It's basically a Tumblr where he answers questions from the community. This is brought to light by the professor of Lair Community College, Brian. It was an attempt to further expand and engage the community with this conversation. Okay, so let's quote here. Mark Rosewater says, I want to have an honest discussion with all of you. While making Magic the best game it can be is important to us, we are also a business. Part of our job as a business is to recognize all the various audiences and create products to serve them. That's how we make money, finding players' desires and filling them with products. One of our audiences are invested players with a higher price threshold. That is, these are the players who are willing to spend a lot of money on highly desired cards, be it reprints or alternative versions. It's in our interest to make products for those players, things like Double Masters and Collector's Boosters. Note that we take care to make these products something that the group is happy to buy. The issue is those desirable cards are also desired by players who that product is not aimed for. Desirable cards are desirable cards. So when we make these products, that group gets upset because the prices seem so high. It feels like an insult. We made something they'd like, but we priced them out of being able to purchase it. I get the ill will, but I also feel like not making products for that audience is unfair for both the audience and us. So I'm turning to all of you that feel upset. How can we make these products in a way that allows that audience to get what they want without all of you feeling like we're doing harm to you? You might be wondering what prompted this conversation or this post. Well, obviously he was asked the question by a user who said that they are kind of growing a bit tired of the expensive products pricing them out. Also, Double Masters was revealed on Amazon to be $300 a booster box, which is 3 times the price of a normal standard set. On top of that, there was some conversations going on with the professor on Twitter, where Mark Rosewater actually dropped the bombshell that the price of the cards, not the price, sorry, the kind of inclusions they put into the booster will denote how much that booster can cost. When prompted by myself and many others to elaborate on that, he of course said he couldn't because they can't talk about the secondary market. They literally pretend it doesn't exist. So we're going to unpack some of the elements of that blog post. But I do have to ask the question, why is Mark Rosewater dealing with this in particular? For some context, Mark Rosewater is the head game designer for Magic the Gathering. He's someone who designs the very game we play. He's enthusiastic about the game, and for the most part, it would seem he does a great job. Barring recent hiccups like Companion, it's safe to say that Magic is for the most part great. Even when eternal formats are getting hammered by the pushed power level of current standard, or things break older formats like Hogak or Oko, Magic's still relatively fun, it's still relatively good. We've got these tensions and these problems, but Magic is still incredibly fun at its core as a game, and I think there's a lot of non-championed, non-called out greatness going on there in terms of design, world building, development. Everyone focuses on the bad and not too much on the good. And think of that for a moment. Think of that. You're designing this game, this sweeping product with hundreds of cards and all these different game modes and ways to play it. And then what happens is that Oko was a mistake. And then that meme dominates the conversation for the next 3 months, perhaps even into the next set. And all your work gets ignored. So I do feel for the designers of Magic. So why is it Mark Rosewater that's the one talking to us about the pricing of premium products and the need to appease the desires of invested players with higher price thresholds? He is the head designer of the game, sure. Are you telling me the design team chooses the printing price of a supplemental set? I'm not saying this incredulously either. I'm saying this with actual confusion. Is that the case? If it is, then that doesn't seem right. And if it isn't, it's one of two things. Wizards needs to get some better PR people to deal with this and not have the burden fall on 1 or 2 people that are the public faces of the game, like Rosewater or Gavin Verhey, and seemingly love this game too, and they never catch a break in terms of the internet backlash because of the constant problems that Wizards faces. Or 2, it's like GDC 2014 all over again. It's game design not being at the forefront of the designer's mind. Instead, they're thinking about monetization and the pricing models, and well, to use the term, they're more concerned with how they hunt the whales. Now, to be very, very clear, Wizards of the Coast don't use the term whale because it is considered pretty disrespectful to refer to your customers with disposable income as giant blubbering fish. And before someone says in the comment section, I know whales aren't fish, maybe I should leave that out for engagement. But invested players with a higher price threshold, his words, that's just the description of a whale. My next point is that if you cater for invested players with loads of disposable income, what about the invested players without it? Now, some of you might say they have arena or standard for that, and I'm like, sure, I guess. But if you want to play Commander, or heaven forbid you want to play Modern, or get into Legacy with a budget brew, there are barriers to entry there, because there is a scarcity of things like fetch lands, and yes, I know I can go a whole video without mentioning them, but there's a scarcity of those things that is basically concocted and created by Wizards of the Coast refusing to reprint those cards in a meaningful way. Those players are priced out. They're enthusiasts, they may be entrenched, they may have been playing for years and they've been wanting to get into Modern or Legacy. I mean, the last Fetchland reprint was literally years ago. This is the crux of the issue that I have around the monetization of Magic and it not being for you, is that Misty Rainforests and Golden Tarns are hideously expensive. Like, Misty Rainforest is currently €40, approaching $90 each. Like, that makes Modern unplayable to anyone with quite a lot of disposable income. Now, there is a conversation around privilege. Should you be able to play every format? My counterpoint is, why not? I'm going to come to it in a moment how I feel this could be fixed, but I don't think you need to have these super expensive cards propping up your game and holding up barriers for people wanting to get into older formats, because that's damaging to the game overall. The reason these cards aren't reprinted, and the reason that the supply is not meeting the demand, there's a scarcity, it's not because they're difficult to produce or they can't find somewhere to put them, it's because they want them to get expensive so they can use them to shift the premium products we're talking about. In many ways, they're seeing the players that want to play non-rotating formats, or even Commander to a lesser extent, as the whales who are invested that they can then sell the cards to. And Secret Lair Extended Edition not only basically acknowledges the secondary market, but it also highlights this very, very well. But that product wasn't for everyone, right? So where is the one that is for everyone? Ikoria boosters? Okay, let's talk about that for the moment, right? The standard sets don't give you the ability to get the hotly sought after Commander, Modern, or Legacy, heaven forbid, staples, right? Like, even the masterpieces help with that, and they're gone. This is a problem where I see Wizards pushing further and further away from supporting the non-rotating or eternal formats. Pioneer, to me, scream that perhaps they're going to try and create a format they can then endorse for a few years and have this rotation that we talked about in Dice to Removal. But again, card prices in that are going up and up and up, and we need to see some reprints. Then we've got Historic, which is the arena version of this, which I'll come to more shortly, but I think that's the core of something that they're gonna support now, because it doesn't cause the problems that the other formats do for them. I think all of this is a byproduct of pushing for digital. It's that Paper Magic will suffer because they want to eventually have everything on Arena. And as a long-running Magic fan and Magic nerd, that just frustrates me. It's genuinely upsetting. Mark finishes his statement by saying it's unfair not to make products for that audience, which is, quite frankly, a very weird approach, honestly. It's unfair to the richer people if we don't price out the poor people. What? Unless you want to make an old boys club, to use the term, where, you know, only the people with money get to get in, then no, that's bollocks. Look at it this way. You can make the product for everyone, right? You could price the packs at like even just 50 cents to $1 over what normal standard packs are, and the whales will buy them and the normies will buy them, and then no one is missing out. The only reason the packs are premium priced is because Wizards can and will make money by doing so. To pretend that it's in the interest of some part of the player base is genuinely disingenuous, and it's the part of this blog post that I disliked the most, because it's just softly pretending that the premium price isn't just a positive thing for Wizards of the Coast. Now, having more expensive things that Wizards can make money from is not inherently a negative or bad thing, right? $300 booster boxes and like $350, $400 sets of 5 fetch lands are fine if the actual game pieces themselves are accessible to the majority of players. In some ways, pricing it this way might mean that those whales, they can't even fire a draft at their local store because people can't afford the fucking packs because they're too expensive. So you've got your one guy that you're apparently trying to make sure you don't leave out here, unable to draft this new set. And let's be honest, Master set drafts are fucking awesome half the time. Ultimate Masters and Original Modern Masters, two of my favourite draft formats of all time. So this could be a fantastic draft. But this whale can no longer draft because the other 7 players who are not whales, the other 7 players who are just casual Magic players, can't afford it because we're coming out of an economic downturn. We're getting to the point that when people can get back to stores to play actual Magic, some of them might not have jobs. They might have reduced hours. The economy is going to be damaged. And I get the fact that Wizards of the Coast need to make some money off the back of all this. Or need to make some money, not off the back of all this. I get that Wizards of the Coast have to make some money off the back of all this, but not the pandemic, all this, but off of like products and stuff. But This just does not fly. I think I've illustrated my point enough there. Let's move on. Rosewater asks, how can we make these products in a way that allows audiences to get what they want without all of you feeling like we're doing harm to you? It's really easy. It's really simple. Stop telling people they're too poor to play your game. There are two forces combining here to piss people off. Firstly, there's the scarcity issue, that people can't get the cards they want because they're too expensive and they can't afford them. There is a small glimmer of hope that these fetch lands will be reprinted in a meaningful way at some point, so everyone holds out for that, right? They got to the point where they're announcing it in like the announcement post for new products saying they're not in this one. And on the previous track record of how they've handled fetches, do we even know if the next reprint will be meaningful enough to affect the price of the cards long term? The second constant in all of this that combines to make this rage is that it isn't for you thing. These two things combine to say these cards are expensive even though we could stop them being expensive, therefore you're too poor to play these formats. How many times does someone sit there and get told they can't play X, Y, or Z because they can't get hold of the cards, or the packs are too expensive to draft in these cases now? How many times will they sit there and be told, sorry, this isn't the product for you, before they just turn around and say, fuck it, Magic isn't for me, and they leave? I receive tons of messages, emails, DMs, tweets, comments, people in Twitch chat, asking me how they can get into Modern or Legacy, even on a budget build. And it's getting to the point now that I'm just actually frustrated because I can't give them a genuine budget build because even the non-reserve list stuff in Legacy, for example, is too expensive. It's becoming harder and harder to help these people because Wizards of the Coast don't want to help these people. And I know that sounds dramatic, but let's explore that for a moment. They brought back Masters sets, but they didn't call it Modern Masters. We didn't get Modern Masters 4, okay? We've had 3 Modern Masters sets before, this is not the 4th one. We got Double Masters. And whilst the double motif is a dumb name but cool concept, it does perhaps suggest that they don't want to tie these master sets to the Eternal formats anymore because they may not give a shit about them. The first Modern Masters was revealed at Pro Tour Return to Ravnica, a modern Pro Tour, because yeah, the world has come that far since then. Some people didn't want Modern Pro Tours anymore because it tends to break the format where all the best players in the world figure out what the best decks are, but ultimately it does show how far we've come, where Modern used to be part of their like flagship broadcast and now just isn't. But anyway, so it was announced at the Pro Tour RTR, the Modern Pro Tour. This is what Aaron Forsyth said about the set when it was announced at that Pro Tour.
We put the shock lands in Return to Ravnica, which are a big part of the mana bases you see in a lot of these decks. So as people could see, we were committed to actually reprinting cards like that. But there's a lot we can't put into Standard. There's a lot of powerful cards from the last few years of sets that we just don't want to reprint in Standard legal sets. So we wanted a way to get those out there. So we created a new booster release that's called Modern Masters.
So the original mission statement of the Master sets was to reprint things that couldn't go through Standard. And perhaps now, as we see the fetch lands not landing in Double Masters again, giving it less and less space to be reprinted in a meaningful way, we might get one reprint in Commander Legends, but that may not be enough, honestly, to bring the price of these things down in the long term. But we don't see that. So why can't we have them through Standard? Is it because they break Standard? I mean, I don't know how much I agree or buy that anymore. Like, look at the cards that things have to compete with in Standard now. Uros, Okos, Companions. Like, the power level of things in Standard right now is so absurd that it makes me question whether or not some modern staples could not just fly under the radar. Look at Narcomoeba. Narcomoeba was in there and it wasn't oppressive because the rest of Dredge isn't there, right? We can have bit players show up through Standard. I don't think that's a really valid excuse anymore. But in short, it looks like the Master sets aren't fulfilling their prior sort of mission statement anymore. That's not what they do. But perhaps it's unfair of me to say that the original mission statement put forth at Pro Tour RTR so many years ago is what Master sets still hold to. It's been a long time since then, I agree. So perhaps it's a little bit unfair, but I thought it was nice for some context to understand where these things came from originally and what I always saw Master sets as. It's strange really in all this because my conclusion when coming to all this, writing this all down, turning on the camera and just like talking to you all, is that perhaps Modern, Legacy and Commander players are the whales. Your average Standard grinder now, the people who will want to try and compete in these organised play events once all the other pros have quit, supposedly, according to Twitter. But those people that are like going to grind to try and get into the MPL and stuff, they're going to get monetized through Standard on Arena. That's a whole different kettle of fish. They're almost in a different economy to us. They're getting monetized that way. Meanwhile, Wizards of the Coast seem reluctant to really support older formats, as shown when there was no Legacy GP for this year prior to the COVID crisis announced or discussed. So why would they give us the cards to play with them? Because they don't want to. But they do know the players that do play them tend to have disposable income. So why not just, like, you know, keep selling these cards at hugely ramped up costs that Wizards can profit off of? In short, to clarify my point, it looks like Wizards of the Coast are not keen to allow newer players to get into the older formats. That's not really a goal that's on the cards when designing or putting together any of these sets. I think they see those sets, or those formats, should I say, as ways of just generating extra revenue through whales, which there's a lot of moral discussion to be had around those sort of like approaches towards monetization. And this will be like short-term gain for long-term loss, because as scarcity grows and these formats aren't supported, Modern Legacy will essentially die out and there'll be less demand for these things and they can't monetize them later. But perhaps, to get really hyperbolic about the whole thing, and just this is more conjecture, that's the plan. These older paper formats aren't needed anymore, they don't really care about them, let them die, and they can just monetize through Arena. They don't have problems with having to reprint things to demand and such. Like I said earlier, the way that I would fix this, and the way I would move away from the whale hunting in a way that is damaging to newer players or players wanting to get into newer formats, is to still have premium products. Have things like your Secret Lairs that people can buy that are alternate arts to existing cards, right? But try and reprint down your Misties to be $20 or $10 each. I don't understand why they have to be the price they currently are. Like I said earlier, I think there is room for premium products. I think there is room to monetize the special uniqueness of alternate arts and special prints and Secret Lairs and such. And even then, perhaps the predatory nature of like FOMO manipulation of get it now or it's gone. Maybe we can forgive that when those cards are accessible in some other way. They should be reprinting cards, staples like Fetchlands and other things, so they are accessible for players to play these older formats and then monetize the special editions and the alternate arts. This brings us neatly to my ending point around Secret Lairs and Double Masters. I think the new Secret Lairs are great. They are premium products that people can pay for if they want them to get premium alternate versions to other cards that aren't too expensive or have been reprinted in an adequate way. Look at it this way. Look at League of Legends, right? In League of Legends, you can buy a Carly, as you can see here, for 790 RP. It's basically £5 of English money. It's a made-up currency used to trick you into not realizing how much you're spending. That's a predatory practice, but I don't want to go into that right now. Then I can buy skins for a Carly, cosmetic changes to that character for more money. The most expensive here being approximately £10. It has no bearing on the game. It's not going to make me win, but it improves or changes my experience of playing. It's customization. The skins are very popular. Riot makes serious money and bank off of these skin sales. Base play piece is cheap, the rest of it is expensive, and that's how Magic should be, in my opinion. And that brings me neatly to Double Masters. I think having a premium booster set that's meant to have a cool draft environment and has all these cool desirable cards in them, and then just like ramping up the price to 3 times the cost of a normal box with only 2/3 of the number of boosters in there, so the booster price is like 5 times the amount or whatever the fuck it is. No. Stop it. But I guess this is where I hand it off to you, right, in a Philip DeFranco kind of way. How do you feel about this? Am I being dramatic? Am I being unnecessarily negative? A lot of people keep telling me I'm being too critical, but I would like to hear what you have to say in the comment section below. I'll be back tomorrow with some gameplay. I'll be back on Friday and Saturday, hopefully, with some more gameplay and some more unique content. Hope you've enjoyed this little ramble. It's probably a little bit too long, honestly. I hope I cut this down in the edit. And I'll see you all very soon. Ta-ta for now.